Well, you know, in 1776, there was a, shall we say, a profound occult operation that was performed. And it was performed at a cosmically auspicious time, and it altered the trajectory of human social consciousness at the time. And it was done by a group of individuals who were very much in tune with what we're talking about here. I'm going to try to, if we keep doing this, one of my objectives is to try to show that there has been an arcane tradition, an underground tradition of lost knowledge that has been preserved and handed down from generation to generation, generally in total secrecy, occasionally with some leaks and declassification going on. And we can, once we learn to recognize its footprints, we can see it. So we can see its passage through history. And once we begin to understand that passage through history and we can see where we're at now, we suddenly realize that we actually have a lot more working for us. You know, there are people can despair at it seems like some of the things we're being confronted with are just intractable. But we actually have some secret weapons on our side. Those of us who are essentially, shall I say, use the word Grail Knights, those of us who understand that our job is to protect our planet. And that's what it essentially is. And that's the essence of the great work when we talk about it. The essence of the great work is we have been handed, we, the human species, have been handed this precious, rare little jewel within the infinitude of cosmic space and its planet Earth. And our charge, our mission, our cosmic mission, our orders from Cosmic Central are secure the planet. Secure the planet, because something's been going on there that has been causing great chaos and great disruption. And there's many species down there on that planet, but only the human species has the ability to circumvent this process and restore stability, restore harmony to the system. Because planet Earth right now is like a machine that has become unstable, and it needs to be adjusted. The heavenly domain, they were literally recreating, literally bringing into manifestation the alchemical dictum of as above, so below. But they also knew that because of this changing seasons of the great year, what worked at one epoch wouldn't necessarily work at another epoch. And the machine would have to be readjusted to stay in harmony. And if one neglects the machine, the cosmic parameters will change, and then suddenly our planet will be out of sync. And the measure of that out of sync can be seen in the human condition as it is now. And when we get into stuff that I'm looking up here, this is the more esoteric side of all of this. I know I've been heavy on the science, but there are many traditions from many sources that are showing us a way out, showing us the technologies by which we can restore the lost harmony. Chartres Cathedral. Here in the year 1140, the book was closed because the teaching was still esoteric. The book is closed, signifying the esoteric tradition which the world was or is not yet ready to receive. But when we look at this image, there's several things we see. And there's lots, when I start showing you these occult images and these symbolic traditions, there's always hidden depths of meaning. There are layers of meaning. There are dimensions of meaning that we peel back one meaning and there will be another layer. Here, notice, two dragons' heads. The dragon. Who or what was the dragon that we find so prolifically represented in symbolic traditions. Notice in that one that he is, in this particular image, Jesus is standing with his feet on the dragon. You notice that there's a space between the two dragons. What we have there is a circuit. This represents, the dragon represents a circuit of cosmic energy. Once you begin to realize that the dragon is a symbol for cosmic energy that has two parts to it, a terrestrial part and a cosmic or celestial part. If you think about the traditional stereotypical depiction of a dragon, it lives in the underground subterranean layers, right? But it can come out, and it has wings, and it can vault up to the heavens. It has this bifold nature. It's in the nature of the dragon. Now what we see here is that the dragon represents the cosmic current, but the circuit is broken. And here we see the master standing on the heads of the dragon, serving to close the circuit, which then means there can be a current flow. You know, when you have an electric circuit and it's broken, there's no current flow. But when you close the circuit, you have a current flow. And that's what's being indicated here. This is Chartres Cathedral. Now, the whole of Chartres Cathedral is a textbook of sacred science, of hermetic wisdom, transmitted down through the ages from ancient Egypt to the building of the Gothic cathedral in France 700 and 800 years ago. And even in ancient Egypt, it did not originate. The ancient Egyptians inherited it from some unknown predecessor culture, of whom now all we can do is see their shadows, their ghosts that they have left behind, their fingerprints, their footprints. But from that, we're going to try to reconstruct and get a vision of who and what these beings were. And when we look at this, this is one of the things I want to get into in great depth. When we pursue this, you've seen the hermit. Yeah, how many of you guys have studied the tarot deck? Now here is a incredible repository of ancient, sacred, scientific knowledge, the tarot deck. The hermit, now you see what he's doing? He's standing on the glaciated mountaintops. He's got a staff. He's got a lantern with a six-pointed star in it. And his hat is interesting. His hat is not just artistic, randomly drawn. His hat actually represents something. What is it? Well, let's look in the alchemist from Notre Dame Cathedral, as I've got there. Note the Phrygian cap. Now, most people would look at this and go, oh, the alchemist, what's he doing? He's leaning forward, he's stroking his long beard, and he's gazing intently at something. We don't know what he's looking at, but he's looking at something profoundly, deeply. He's looking at a mystery. It's the mystery that stands at the end of the great work. But who would look at this and go that there's tremendous significance to the cap that he's wearing? Well, there's our alchemical quote. That which is below is like that which is above to effect the miracle of the one thing. What is the miracle of the one thing? Well, that is the secret of fusion. And that is what happens when the cosmic domain and the terrestrial domain are brought into harmony. That's when the fusion can take place. And that is the essence of the alchemical work. We see here, research must follow in the footsteps of nature. This is from a medieval alchemical tract. Nature, notice, depicted as a woman carrying a cornucopia, showing the fecundity of life. And notice the footprints. See, here's the alchemist. He's got the lamp, just like the hermit. He's got that lamp. He's going through a darkened world, following the footsteps of true knowledge of nature. And this is what every alchemist, every hermeticist, every seeker of knowledge and wisdom must do, follow in the footsteps of nature, because nature is the ultimate teacher. and the magician. Again, from the tarot deck. And what do we see here? What's going on? Everything in this image is symbolical. From the roses, to the lilies, to the cup, the sword, the pentacle, the wand, the infinity sign over his head. It's all a coherent statement of occult wisdom. Notice he holds the wand in his right hand. Now in alchemy, you've got the 4 elements that correspond to the 4 ages of the world and the 4 sacred directions. What are the 4 elements? Air, fire, water, and earth. Pardon? The 5th element is actually signified by the 5-pointed star on the pentagram, right there. The pentagram, or pentacle, is the earth. It's a disc usually made of fired clay, appropriately taken from the earth. You have the wand, which is a symbol of the power of human will. Without human will, we can imagine and dream all kinds of stuff, but we'll never do anything. We'll never get past the stage of conceiving of something. The cup is the emotions. It's the feeling of completeness we get when we align ourselves with the great harmony. The sword represents the intellect, without which no magician or alchemist or hermeticist should presume to enter into the jungle of metaphysics without that sword. That's the sword of reason. And with that sword, that's how we differentiate between the true and false. It's one of our most powerful tools that we have as human beings, is our reasoning power. And so here we have, and notice how he holds the wand up so that it's acting as a conduit to connect that which is above with that which is below. Pardon? Solve et coagula. Right. First dissolve, then coagulate. That's one of the key stages in the great alchemical work. And the lilies and the roses, 2 flowers with immense occult significance. We'll get into that later if you want. An ionic column. Everything on here has significance. The ionic column. Notice the columns with the little spirals. Well, to the ancient Greeks, the ionic column was symbolical of something. So the designers of these cards have incorporated tremendous knowledge. The color of the robe. Notice what his belt is. A serpent swallowing his own tail. There's the Ouroboros serpent. You'll recognize that, I'm sure. Pardon? We got another 2 or 3 hours? There's a lot to it, but it gets in, the serpent is a cognate symbol with the dragon. Go back, read your story of Genesis and think about that. The serpent was a character that precipitated the fall of man, the expulsion of the garden. If you read in the story of Gilgamesh and his attempts to find the secret of immortality, and he had to go to Utnapishtim, who was the survivor of the great world-cleansing flood, who had been granted as a boon by the gods the gift of immortality. And Utnapishtim told Gilgamesh the secret is in the plant kingdom, because Gilgamesh had understood that he had fallen into a state of mortality. Well, he fell asleep. He was granted the plant by Utnapishtim, but he fell asleep and a serpent came and swallowed the plant. Now we find serpent symbolism called ophialatry, which is the study of serpent symbolism, which is universal throughout the ancient traditions. And I will definitely talk more about that, I promise. But the serpent swallowing his own tail, that is a key symbol from alchemy, and it represents the great work. It's one of the symbols of the great work out of alchemy. All right, the rose and the lily. Now you'll notice that the rose has 5 petals and the lily has 6. What we find here is actually a geometric exercise. The 5 and the 6 and the integration of the 5 and 6. And anybody who has studied sacred geometry will see that hidden in this image is a exercise in sacred geometry. Also, the banner underneath, Igni Natura renovator integra. What does that say? Igni, what is that? Fire. Natura means nature. Renovator means to renovate, to renew. Integra, whole or complete, wholly, complete. Putting that together, it basically would translate or read as, through fire, nature is wholly renewed. But it is also, when you see in alchemical imagery, you will see I-N-R-I. Yes, and which is Greek. It's also Iesus Nazarenos Rex Eudorum, which was the sign hung on the cross as Jesus was being crucified. Now, to anybody who studied alchemy, that's enough of a clue for them to realize that the crucifixion is an alchemical allegory. But it also relates to this alchemical dictum that igni natura renovator integra. And there are deep mysteries here, very deep mysteries. And my goal is to fling the doors as wide open as I can, as it says at the end of the age, as it says in the book of Matthew and in the book of Luke, at the end of the age, the secrets shall be shouted from the housetops. I've devoted 35 years to declassifying and understanding the occult secrets. And my mission now is to declassify them and open the doors to take the Book of Esoterica and open it. And it's a big task, and I can't do it alone.